All right. So thank you for having me. Welcome everybody to this presentation. We're going to focus today on extending ArcGIS in the field with RFID for asset management. My name is Emily Pierce. I'm a professional land surveyor and I've been working in the surveying profession for about the last 20 years. I recently joined the team here at Berntsen International and lead their business development. I'm looking forward to discussing this new application with proven technology that hopefully will help you and your organization better manage your infrastructure assets using RFID. Since I've been working in the surveying profession, I've certainly been a user of GIS data and a provider, but I can safely say I'm not necessarily a technical expert. So at the end, we're going to have some time for some question and answer. And I will do my best to answer your questions, but if there are some technical things that I can't answer, I will have my email address available as well. So you can shoot me an email, we can coordinate through email, and we've got our engineering team on our end who can answer those questions for you. So first off, we're gonna go through. Here's a little overview of some of the things that we're gonna go through. We'll talk a bit about why Berntsen chose RFID for its connected infrastructure management, how the technology works. Then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the challenges that asset management organizations face and how RFID marking can help alleviate those pain points. We'll go through some of the approaches that a couple of organizations that we work with have taken. And then, as I said, we'll have some question and answer at the end. But before we do start, I would just like to launch a poll, if I can figure out how to do that, or somebody else can help me. So before we start, I just want to be able to get a sense of who we have in our audience today. And what your familiarity is with asset management on GIS platforms. So please feel free to fill out the question and answer or the poll here. And in just a minute, as soon as those answers come in, we'll show those results. All right, so most of you, about 60-40, are familiar with using asset management, a GIS platform for asset management, others not so much. So that's good. We've got a good even amount, and hopefully after this you'll have a little bit better familiarity with it. So a little bit about us at Berntsen. Berntsen International is the global leader in infrastructure marking, and we've been in business since 1972. Most of the surveyors around the country and around the world know Berntsen because of its surveying products and the quality and integration that go into them. And through those years of experience, we've applied that knowledge to using RFID, now using that to connect our physical markers into GIS. So over a decade ago, Berntsen started looking at what smart marking technology was and as a means to add value to the marking product industry. After extensive experimentation, it was determined that RFID, or radio frequency identification, was identified as the emerging technology that made sense for tying the physical world to the digital world. This graphic shows some of the milestones along that journey. So from 2010, when we built the first UHF RFID subsurface magnetic marker, patents were put in place in 2012. The development of our inframarker in 2015, which connected mobile GIS data collection with RFID, to awards, further developments and patents, and now here in 2020, Berntsen is introducing software that connects markers into ArcGIS, being built to run within the Esri web apps for Windows and the Survey 123 platform. So just real quick, we're going to run a second poll here. The second poll is really to gauge how familiar you are with RFID or radio frequency identification. So if you're experienced, maybe you've used RFID for other purposes, maybe you know what it is and have seen some applications, or maybe you're not really familiar with it at all. Feel free to fill that out quick. And in just a minute, we should have our results. All right, so just a small percentage is experienced, but many of you either know what it is and are aware of it, or maybe aren't familiar at all. So that's good. RFID or radio frequency identification is uniquely suited to be the enabling identifying technology for better asset management. It is by far the fastest growing asset identifying technology in the world, with many advantages over things like paint, barcoding, even etched manufacturer's numbers. RFID is not new technology, but it's being used all over the world to track packages, warehouse inventory, and because there's already standards in place, this makes it a key use in identification. Other key benefits make it a great fit. So there's no line of sight that's required. It's perfect for both above ground and underground subsurface assets. It's passive. It doesn't require any sort of power source or battery, making it perfect for certain utilities like gas and electric, where there's no electrical interference. And it can last a very long time. It provides a unique digital serial number for any asset, and it links then that physical ID into that digital world. So in talking with many individuals on both sides of the house, in the operations side as well as the asset management GIS side, one common goal was really what kept reoccurring. Time after time, people were asking to have a seamless system that linked their field assets to their office assets, so that they can locate and verify these assets, collect the data, and analyze that data seamlessly. So, you know, that sounds easy, right? That's what we all want, right? But in reality, you probably know that it's more complicated. When a field technician goes out to locate that asset, they may not be able to find it, or they might be in the wrong location. And then they can't verify that they're at the correct location. When they collect the data, do they have the correct forms that are available? Are they tracking the correct information to the correct asset or the correct data point? When they need to take information into the office, there might have to be some information that then has to be transcribed into their into the GIS system. And so there's a lot of mistakes that can happen in that process as well. So in each and every one of those processes introduces error into your data set. Tracking the information to the wrong asset, not having those correct forms available, transcribing and transposing information incorrectly when doing the data entry. And then not only that, but it's the time, the extra time that it takes to put that information in. And really, you're kind of doing everything twice. So we wanted to be able to eliminate those breaks in that chain, just like you do. And this is really where the RFID becomes that connection. Marking the assets with RFID tags gives each physical asset its own unique serial number that can be linked through the software to its digital data point in your GIS. And this can be used with all different types of assets, whether they're above ground, below ground, water assets, stormwater, sewer, electric, gas, all of them. This is one universal system that can work with all of them. It can also be used for other types of assets as well. So maybe you have to keep track of signs or culverts or other improvements in your municipality or governmental agency that you have to keep track of. Each RFID read of that physical asset triggers that access into the GIS database, and then it loads all of the data fields associated with that asset, including any attached documentation, imagery, pictures, and it even can load the correct inspection forms or maintenance forms for that specific asset. This reduces and eliminates those breaks in those workflow chains. So specifically, if you have to do MS4 compliance and you have required inspections you have to do every year, this is a seamless way to do that. And that information, once it's saved in the database out in the field, it's already saved in your database in the office as well. So really, this is an illustration as to how this works. So over off way to the right side, you have your RFID Berntsen tag, and that has the RFID chip in it. It's got a unique identification, and the reader in the middle is what triggers and excites a chip inside that, and the data is then sent to the reader and then Bluetooth to your mobile device. That mobile device is where you've got your information. So maybe you're using the widget on the web app, or maybe you're using Survey 123. Those sorts of things are then on your mobile device. You can then input in the correct fields, the information that you're doing for your inspection. And once you click save, as long as you have that data connectivity, you've got a Wi-Fi signal or a cellular signal, that information is directly updated right into your GIS database in the office as well. So let's hope that this video is gonna work. We've seen some interesting things with it. If not, I can go quick to our Vimeo site and we can show this video too, but I'm hoping that this will load directly in here. And it didn't. So let me just do a stop share quick. And then I will do a new share so we can get to the right spot. Let me just make this a little bit tighter for you guys here. I'm sorry, I apologize for the technical difficulties here, but just want to make sure you guys can see this video because this will show the workflow for you. So I hope you guys are seeing this. You guys can see this correctly? Okay. So the video here is really going to show you just what a typical workflow looks like. So as our inspectors go along out in the field, they've got assets that are marked with our InfoMarker RFID tags. They've got multiple different types of assets, and they walk up to their catch basin. They run a scan. That RFID read comes back, and it understands exactly what asset it is. It's got specific asset information. And then the inspector can go along. He can fill in his information for that and click save. And then as soon as he does that, he can walk to the next asset. This time he's walking to a manhole cover and does another scan. Once he has that information, again, he can go through and this will automatically populate the types of fields specific to that data point. Then that information is saved and uploaded directly to their GIS database in the office. And that's just a little bit about how that works. So let me quick unshare and share again. So we can get back to the PowerPoint. And are you guys now seeing the case studies? I hope. No, okay. Here we go. Oh, except Yeah. Are you guys seeing the full screen now again? Okay, good.
Yep.
All right. So here's just a couple of examples of some of the work that we've done with some other organizations out there that are similar to yours. So Sammamish Plateau Water is located about 15 miles outside of Seattle, and it provides approximately 64,000 residents with sewer service and about 50,000 residents with drinking water. They are primarily a single family residence area and includes 2 cities as well as an unincorporated area of King County. So they chose to install RFID tags on their water sampling stations. These sampling stations are tested weekly, and reports are sent every 2 weeks to the health department to ensure safe drinking water. To test the RFID verification, they added in the RFID marker tags to each sampling station and recorded the specific identification that's associated with that data in the ArcGIS. They faced issues of being able to identify errors of their sampling stations, having the data tracked to the incorrect sampling stations, and then they also wanted to increase their efficiencies with their field processes. So with RFID and then using Survey 123, they found a quick way for their field technician to verify and identify the sampling stations simply by just reading the RFID tag. Once the tag was read and the correct forms were populated, this eliminated the identification errors and permanently associating that asset data in ArcGIS to the correct asset. This process also reduced errors, improving their accuracy, decreasing the time for their inspections, and streamlining their data gathering directly into GIS for them. Another case study that we worked on was with the city of Sun Prairie, so this one's a little bit more close to home here. But they took a little slightly different approach. Their public works director engaged with us to create a field trial of RFID asset management solution with a range of different types of assets, including stormwater and sanitary manholes, inlets, and hydrants. So they wanted a feasibility in creating a connected infrastructure using ArcGIS with all of their different asset types. Their team was led by their GIS and asset management coordinator, and they set out nearly 60 tags in approximately 3 hours in an area about the size of a couple of city blocks or so. All of these assets were marked and by a team of 2, as well as all of the data information was written to the tags for that. About a week later, their GIS coordinator completed a walkthrough to test their web app. The connection with their Windows Server program was established and connected to a Windows tablet and then to a cell phone to access internet. As he walked through from asset to asset, he was able to scan those assets, view the inspection forms for each asset in the Smart Editor tool. So here's a display of the area where their assets were marked. Even though this was an ongoing case study, it was apparent from the beginning how easy it was to install and associate the data sets. And additionally, it shows that different types of assets can be part of the same data set when you need to read the tag, the correct forms and documents were all displayed. So these were 2 different communities that started using connected RFID infrastructure with 2 different starting points. One starting with a specific type of asset, while another one went more for a geographic area. The other thing was that Sammamish had used the web widgets, and City of Sun Prairie was using Survey 123. So just to reiterate, RFID or radio frequency identification gave us a quick asset verification, making sure that, that we could do things quickly in a timely manner, that it was accurate, so that unique identification for the asset is directly tagged right with that, with the InfoMarker tag. So that created an audit trail as well, so we can see who did the inspection, when the inspection was. It keeps track of the user and the time and date stamp on every time that a read is taken. And then it also connects with ArcGIS, as well as Survey 123. And the other thing we wanted to focus on as well was making sure that the workflow, that there's a minimal disruption to the workflow. So we didn't want to create a system where you know, somebody had to do something completely new or completely different. We wanted to be able to have workers out there still continuing to do their current workflow with just a minimal disruption, a minimal amount of training, and they can continue to still work and do their jobs. So that is all I have. But if you guys have any questions, I'd certainly love to be able to answer them for you. And we can go from there. Otherwise, if you don't want to reach out to me on here, but you do want to reach out, my email address is right there. I'd be more than happy to follow up with you and answer any questions that you do have.
Emily, it does look like there is a question. How often do you have to replace the RFID markers due to vandalism, weathering, or otherwise?
So that's a great question. So there's we do have different types of tags. So there are some tags that are designed to be underground, and those typically, once they're buried, nobody really knows that they're there, except for the worker that probably installed it. And anybody with a magnetic locator can pick those up as well. So, so those typically, I mean, those are meant to last underground for up to 20 years, that sort of thing. As far as the tags that are designed for above ground, again, we wanted to make sure that we're providing and engineering a product that's going to last a really long time. So we've seen places where these types of tags are, you know, around for 15 to 20 years, maybe even longer than that. They are designed to withstand weathering. We also have been studying and doing testing with different types of adhesive as well. And the adhesive that we've gotten that we're using tends to work pretty well and can withstand for quite a long time. But we do have environmental impacts as well. So, you know, the lawnmower, you know, may, depending on where it's at, may have an issue, or it's typically pretty difficult for, you know, the neighborhood kid to come and walk up to the curb and pull it off there because the adhesives that we are using, they are pretty permanent. You know, they're the same standard as like a concrete adhesive or something like that. So we don't really see a whole lot of vandalism per se, but there are some environmental impacts that do come into play too. So good question.
We also have a second one. The second question is, ArcGIS Collector can scan barcodes directly using the camera on the device. Does the RFID scanner integrate with ArcGIS Collector, or is it just Web App Builder and Survey 123?
Right now, it's just Web App Builder and Survey 123. The downfall with barcodes is that it does require a line of sight. So this system does not require a line of sight. We can bury tags up to 2 feet, 3 feet in the ground, and still be able to read them just fine. But that's not to say that we aren't working on those integrations right now. So we are constantly exploring, you know, what we can do as far as other data collector type things that are out there, devices that are out there. Trimble has a tablet device that we are integrated with, and you can get an RFID reader on that. So there are other options out there as well, other than just the reader and using the Windows server for that. So.
Okay, we got a couple more questions now.
Okay.
Next up, it says, Jen says, I know there have been issues with people stealing RFID info from credit cards, keys, etc. Is there an issue with this on these tags? How is this data secured?
So the only data that's actually stored on the tag itself is the unique identification number, which is like a 36 character alphanumeric number. If anybody had that, they probably wouldn't know what to do with it. The other information that's actually stored on the tag itself is the owner name. So that might be the city of Prairie. It might be, just what your agency name is. The identification of that. So you can specify, maybe it's manhole number 1 or it's hydrant 13 or something like that. And then the latitude and longitude. So that's the only information that's actually stored on the tag itself. That way, then if somebody comes along with an RFID reader and they scan it, they can see, oh yeah, okay, this thing is owned by the city of Sun Prairie, and then they move on. So those are the only things that are actually stored on there. Everything else is in the GIS database. So that would be on your security side. So I hope that answered it.
Okay, there are two more questions. One is kind of related. It says, if we have something, a manhole, inlet, etc., with GPS coordinates, what more does this get me?
So this would actually, so a lot of places are MS4 compliant, so they're required to do specific inspections. So this would quickly identify that point that you have to inspect, and then it would formulate and populate all of the inspection forms that go right along with it. So if you're sent out to the intersection of First and Main and you have to inspect an inlet there, and you go out there and there's 3 inlets there or 2 inlets there, and you're not sure which one, you can scan and completely 100% identify, hey, I'm at the right one or I'm at the wrong one and I need to find the right one. Additionally, then, like I said, it stores all that information for you. And then as soon as you hit save, that the database, with your data connectivity, your database is automatically updated as well. So it gives you that audit trail as well. So sometimes, if you have to, a good example was we were working with a pipeline company, and they needed to verify with their Public Service Commission that they were doing their periodic inspections of their signs and, like their right-of-way signs and their pipeline, like their carcinite posts, all those sorts of things. They couldn't provide data. They couldn't provide data showing that they had done those inspections. This specifically gives you, when you read that and scan that tag, it gives you a date and time stamp of when that was done and by whom. So you can, if you need to inspect every inlet in the city, you can run a report after all of your inspections are done and say, hey, we missed one, or nope, looks like we're all good. And then we've got that report that you can have directly from your GIS database that says that everything has been completed. Does that make sense? I hope.
The last question that we did have was, when an asset is replaced, how do you get the tag off to reuse?
You can reuse the tag. That's you can do that. I'm not exactly sure how you would remove it, but I would assume that a putty knife probably could get you close. There may be some other solvents that you can put on it as well. But the tags themselves are relatively inexpensive. So you may just want to put a new tag on it. The tags, depending on the different types of tags, the tags can run anywhere from about $10 a piece to about $25 a piece, depending on the type and the quantity and that sort of thing. So it may just be more cost effective to just put a new tag on it. And then you can associate that tag then with either a new data point, if you have a new data point to associate it with, or you can associate it with the old data point if you wanted to as well too.
And then, oh, and one more. It says, oh, can you reuse the tag for continuity?
You can, yes, you can. There is a way to lock the tags. So if you don't want them to be used again, that would permanently lock it. But yes, there is a way if they aren't already permanently locked, and it's difficult to do that. But if they aren't already permanently locked, then you can reassociate that tag in the future for another asset. So.
Okay, I think you're out of questions, and we're out of time.
Out of time. All right. Well, thank you much. I appreciate it. And like I said, if you guys do have some follow-up and you want to reach out to me, feel free anytime. Thanks much.